Welcome to another insightful episode of the Contractor Business Builder podcast. Today, we have the honor of introducing James Matt. He's the CEO of BuilderChat. So, what if you could save 100 plus hours of admin time every year without hiring a new employee just by changing how you talk to your leads and your current clients? Welcome here, James. How are you doing today?
Doing amazing, Derek. Thanks so much for having me and for the amazing introduction. Really appreciate it.
Definitely excited to dive in here. Builder Chat, Jeff, definitely on the cutting edge of some new technology and making life easier for contractors across the board. So can you give us a little bit of an intro of Builder Chat and exactly what you do and the idea behind it?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. If it's cool with you, maybe I'll start with my journey in the building space. And
Yep,
okay, cool.
wonderful.
So yeah, I've been in home building for 21 years. I also have some commercial experience. I actually got started on the tools in my late teens and worked my way up to project management, estimating. Spent 7 years selling new homes and also have a lot of business development and sales experience in other trade aspects in the industry as well. So the way that Builder Chat came about, pretty interesting origin story. Right around when COVID hit, I was a sales and marketing manager for a custom builder, and things were growing great. We had a solid pipeline built, and right when we were kind of starting to count some wins, COVID hit. And if you're up in Canada, you know what happened during COVID. A little bit different than what some people experienced in the U.S., but we got hit with some pretty strict lockdowns, and there was a ton of fear and uncertainty around that time. And what happened for us was like 100% of our pipeline pumped the brakes. They didn't want to carry the conversation on. They didn't want to talk about moving forward. Everybody was kind of like, let's stop and see what happens. On top of that, no new people were reaching out as well. So I'm sure you can imagine, Derek, a little bit scary, especially since, at that point I was primarily commission based for my income. So, not only worried about performing for the company, but feeding my family as well. So, yeah. And in our weekly meetings, of course, one of the things we take a look at was our website traffic. And what was really interesting to us was not only was our website traffic steady, it was actually better than it was before the lockdowns. And, not a huge surprise there. They're cooped up in their house. They realize everything they don't like about it. They're not going to work, so they have time to research, right? But, they weren't engaging. And we were like, how the heck can we engage these website visitors and connect with them, even though they're not ready to like kind of start a sales cycle or really get a conversation going. So at that time, the technology wasn't really where it is today. So we were kind of exploring options on how we can engage people 24 hours. We noticed a lot of our traffic was at night. And what we settled on was a live chat model, but to make it affordable for the company, we decided to staff it with foreign workers out of India, which is like very common for, call centers and things like that. Not anticipated before we kicked the project off, but that kind of created a bunch of additional problems for me that I didn't anticipate. Language barriers, training hurdles, gaps in like understanding the terminology of the industry, especially like regionally specific. So, sometimes I'd throw my hands up and get a little frustrated and be like, one day we'll be able to do this with AI. So flash forward a few years, and that dream became a reality. So what we specialize in at Builder Chat is building customer experience solutions for builders and contractors that give them the ability to engage prospects, potential buyers, potential clients 24/7, 365, and also help facilitate customer service for existing clients.
That's so cool. Can you walk us through a little bit of what that might look like from the client's point of view or the person calling in? What would their experience be, or what's some of the use cases?
Yeah, for sure. So we do have the ability to apply our technology to web chat on your website, text, so SMS, or voice applications on your phone as well. So basically what we're doing is we're kind of filling any gaps for your team, right? So as I mentioned, we noticed a lot of our traffic was happening at night. Some of the studies my team has reviewed say that number is as high as 60% today for new buyers doing research, which totally makes sense, right? They're working all day, they're getting home, they're having supper. Maybe it's 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock by the time they pivot to doing some research after the kids are in bed. So our internal data does reflect that. At certain points in the year, it does fluctuate, but we've seen as high as 52, 53% of our chats happening after hours. So, main question, who cares? Why is this important? Well, the reason it's important is early interactions with your team kind of determine potential clients' perception of your customer service, even if it's on a subconscious level, and it kind of gives them an idea of what your responsiveness is and things like that. HubSpot, one of the largest CRMs out there, they've run some numbers, and according to them, if you're the first to reply to a potential client, potential buyer, your chances of landing the deal could be as high as 78% higher. So it's a really huge difference here. And I know as a new home salesperson, one of the biggest compliments or most common compliments I got was, thanks for getting back to me so quickly. We reached out to 3, 4, 5 builders over the past 2, 3 days, and you're the first one to get back to us. And, for me, prompt reply was like top of my list. I always try, unless I'm in a meeting, like I'll get back to you instantly. And, we won a lot of business. In fact, if we got to the design phase with a client, my close rate was above 95% on that. So it really makes a huge difference, especially in an industry where, builders and contractors are notoriously hard to get a hold of. So basically what we're doing, it's not a human, but we're positioning, a solution that's client facing that allows, no matter what time of day, no matter what question a client has, they are able to ask general FAQs, get help navigating your website, understand some things that your team provides that might not be easily accessible on the website. And, anybody who's into analytics, website data at all knows that if somebody doesn't find what they're looking for within about 15 to 30 seconds, chances are they're going to leave and they're going to go to a competitor's site. So,
surprising numbers there. And there's a saying in the industry, speed to lead. How quick are you to respond to client requests? And it doesn't always have to be you picking up the phone and calling them or talking with them personally. It's really about them feeling that the company's responded. If they get some questions asked, they setting that expectation of when someone will reach out to them and things like this. They feel heard, and it gives a professional feel to the business, even if they're not talking directly with the owner, which obviously as a larger business, you can't have people available 24/7 where an AI can easily do that and provide a really high level of service there. So you mentioned a few here, but what are some common mistakes that you see home builders, contractors making when it comes to like managing their sales and leads that come in?
Well, again, I've been in the industry for 21 years, so I know this firsthand because, like, I was that guy, right? A lot of people in the industry, why do they start their own business? Chances are they're really good at what they do. Right. And a lot of what I'm about to bring up, Derek, will probably resonate with you and your clients. And, this is exactly what you help with. They're really good at what they do. Maybe not a professional salesperson, maybe not professional customer experience manager, things like this. Elements of business management that might not be front of mind as an expert tradesperson when you're starting your business. So common mistakes, again, like speed to lead, recognizing that you have to keep your pipeline flowing all the time, and you have to have a consistent system in place that helps facilitate bringing in new business all the time. So yeah, and then on top of speed to reply and speed to lead, there's speed on estimating, getting clients their proposals as quick as possible. Something else that's very important. When I first started in home sales, one of my early mentors, he asked me a question, and he said, James, what do you think your job is as a new home salesperson? And I thought it was a trick question, so I was like, I don't know, paperwork, And he says, no, setting reasonable expectations, right? So this is where all of this comes into play. You don't have to be available 24/7. You don't have to getting an estimate or proposal to a client within 24 hours or 72 hours, both very reasonable time frames. But what is your prospect, your potential client expecting? right? So setting those expectations is very important. If you do the site
Mhm.
visit at the client's home or on the job site or meeting, and you tell them, I'll have a proposal to you in 24 hours, but it takes you 48, you're letting them down. You didn't set a reasonable expectation. If you tell them 3 days and you get it to them in two, same time frame, but now you have a happy client because you've exceeded the expectations. So number
Mhm.
two is setting expectations. And then, I'd say the other very important factor, and again, I know this from experience, is not having like formal sales training. It's very important. Just like you need to develop and practice the skills as a tradesperson, you also need to learn and develop skills as a salesperson to keep that business momentum going. So
Yeah, great points that you pointed out there and really beneficial. Definitely that consistency for your pipeline, whether that's in your marketing or sales process, whatever, super important because as so many builders, it's a catch-22 where you get super busy, you got all these projects, you're just managing and just trying to stay, on top of everything that's happening in your business. You neglect the sales, marketing, lead gen side of your business and then all those projects start to wind down and it's like oh shoot, we got to pump up this leads and sales again, and it doesn't work overnight like that. You really need to have that consistency, definitely in there to make the whole thing run and be able to be scheduling out projects and maintain your workflow. Now, there's probably like the larger builders out there. This makes a lot of sense. Have somebody who can pick up the phone, do some of this back and forth with new clients or people asking information and stuff like that, who are generating consistently. What about like the smaller builders out there who maybe are doing, I don't know, in a few million range or even less, who think I don't really need someone on the phones 24/7 or what have you. Does your builder chat work, well for small builders as well as larger builders?
yeah, totally. So, one of our big things, and I know a lot of contractors, tradespeople out there might be intimidated by new technology. So,
Mhm.
we've really removed that roadblock, and one of our taglines is no new tech to learn, right? So, what we do is, hopefully you have some sort of system in place. Maybe you have a CRM, client relationship management program, or a project management estimating platform that you're using that integrates that at some level. So, what we do is we plug into that, and basically we're able to collect those contact details and submit them for you and set a reasonable expectation, right? Like what I would recommend for somebody that's smaller is, have a block in your day that you get back to people. So maybe that's 4 to 5 p.m., whatever days. We can train your AI assistant to be like, yeah, Paul's going to get back to you at 4 p.m. this evening or 4 p.m. tomorrow evening. So again, setting that reasonable expectation. Do they
Mhm.
need this? Well, take a look at your competition, right? There's a lot of really successful home services franchise. You've already brought up the large builders that have entire human teams dedicated to this. The large franchise home services providers that are, national, international companies, they have teams dedicated to this as well. And there's a reason that they spend millions and millions of dollars on this because it's super important. And that's who you're competing against, right? So what we have here is like an opportunity to level the playing field. So maybe you can't afford to have an administrative staff, a secretary, somebody answering the phones for you all day. Not only can we provide that to you for like pennies an hour, but we can actually elevate your service or perceived service to clients above that of your competition, even some of these larger companies that likely aren't providing 24-hour coverage. So we are a little bit ahead of the curve, and I see a significant opportunity for contractors, even small and medium size, to really tap into that to kind of level the playing field. So, that's something that really gets me excited. And then again, from experience, if you are concerned about sales, what's your other option, right? Like you're sitting there answering texts and phone calls. I like to call them, kind of a spin-off of the tire kicker concept. I call them foundation kickers in our industry. But,
Mhm.
how many calls a day are you answering just like frequently asked questions or questions from people that aren't even serious, and you're stopping your work? If you're not on the tools, you're, stopping your estimating or managing your team to field these calls. So we also provide an opportunity to pre-qualify and filter out those foundation kickers. And by the time somebody looks forward to connecting with you, you already know there's some interest there. And and you get the entire chat transcript as well. So you're kind of already in your client's head if you do have some sales acumen, really positioned to build some strong rapport right out of the gate. And you don't have to annoy your client by asking them all of the same questions, right? So
Yeah, huge time savings, money savings for one thing, but then the other thing is just as we've mentioned before, your likelihood of landing sales and speaking with the right clients. So spending more of your time having conversations with the right people instead of, spending your time trying to weed out or sort out the people that aren't a good fit or could easily be answered by, an FAQ or something like that. So definitely useful. And I think like this is only going to get more standard, I think, across the industry. So you really have a chance now to be ahead of the curve. And like the longer that you utilize AI, I find the better you get at it, but the better it will get at whatever tasks you're giving it. So the sooner you can get started with something like this, just the better off you'll be in the farther ahead you'll get in the future.
totally,
Now,
yeah.
we were talking a little while back, and you said that you did a bit of a secret shopper recently, where you called a bunch of builders and to just kind of do some market research, if you will. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did and what the results were?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. You know, we had a lot of fun performing this secret shop project, and not trying to throw anybody under the bus, so I won't say which builders it was or which city it was.
Mhm.
I will say it was one of the capital cities in Canada, and I will say that we secret shopped 12 builders. Out of those 12 builders, only two had after hours coverage. So what's that, like 16 or 18%? And out of those 12 builders, only five ever got back to us with an after hours inquiry. So,
Yeah.
like that really floored me. I brought up earlier how, I have new home sales experience, and one of my primary objectives was like that speed to reply, you know what I mean? And how
Mhm.
powerful that was for me. And all of the builders we're talking about, they're the biggest builders in the city that we surveyed. So, again,
Mhm.
if you're looking at this from like a small medium builder perspective, gigantic opportunity here, guys. Like, I touched on earlier how up to 60% of home buyers are shopping after hours, and none of your big competition has the support in place for this. And not only that, even though they have teams, they're missing these leads. And like, I'm a professional home salesperson. I knew the questions to ask to appear like I was coming in as a solid lead. And I'm not sure how it got missed in the shuffle or what happened, but the main point is there's a gigantic opportunity here.
Mhm.
If you look at online shopping trends, first place is Amazon. And chances are most of the people listening probably have an Amazon Prime membership. I know I do. And
Mhm.
how streamlined is Amazon, right? I can hop on there. I can order something in 2 clicks and have it to my doorstep the next day. The next leader is Walmart. Amazon accounts for like 46%, and I could be a little bit off here, but 46% of e-commerce. Walmart is like at 5%. So
Mhm.
that gives you some perspective on how big of a difference online buyer journey can make for a business. Like nobody else is even in the same league, right? Like Amazon's really figured this out. And
Mhm.
this is where it kind of impacts every other business as well, because subconscious or not, everybody is used to these buying experiences now, right? Like since COVID, we had a huge amount of what I like to call convenience innovation, order your groceries, all this sort of stuff. This is the level of accessibility and customer service people are getting used to. And the building industry and contracting industry typically lags other industries already. And like they really haven't clicked into this. Like I'm just now starting to see leaders from like the top builders in the US. I haven't
Mhm.
heard anybody in Canada talking about this yet. And a lot of them are starting to recognize it, but I don't even know if I've seen another person talk about the why. So, like, when you really understand what's happening with buyer psychology, online buying journeys, accessibility, and all of these things, the
Mhm.
opportunity that we have to tap into becomes pretty clear. So,
Yeah, definitely. As you mentioned, the game has changed and people are used to getting all the information they need online or even, through AI chatbots and stuff nowadays that they're in a different psychological space and they expect, like, as you mentioned earlier with the expectations, a lot of frustration or miscommunication pretty much everything it boils down to expectations, and expectations have really never been higher for consumers nowadays. Everything is very instant at their fingertips. They want to talk with someone when they want to talk with someone. They want to know something, right now, not in a day or two. So yeah, just emphasizing the importance of really getting back to them quick. So as far as like that client experience, what are some tips that you've seen work really well? We've talked about setting proper expectations, but how can like builders, contractors really excel at that client experience?
Well, I think it really comes down to having your whole team on the same page as well. That's really huge. And like every team member is a representative of your business, and they should understand all of the processes that you have in place and have the ability to set those expectations with clients and also honor those expectations, right? So I think it kind of comes down to like a company culture thing. And, it's funny, Derek, like when we first started BuilderChat, I kind of explained the backstory there, and we knew we had something powerful. It produced amazing results for me and brought us so many high quality leads over the time with the builder that I was
Mhm.
managing sales and marketing for. So we recognized the power of that. But like during our secret shop and other projects that my team is engaged in, our mission is kind of a dual pronged mission right now. And just like putting it out there, like I brought up earlier how contractors and builders are notoriously unresponsive, and a lot of people, even if they're super happy with their project, they're not happy with their customer service. So people will pay for that. Like the small builders out there that are listening to this, I'm sure there's a lot of business that you've won because they get to deal with the owner direct, and they want that white glove service. So like how can we actually live up to that and make sure they're happy? How can we bring you more referrals by providing an amazing experience? So I'm not sure if I totally answered your question or if I drifted a bit there,
Yeah,
but
I think the big takeaway there is when we go to produce a new home or project, and you're presenting that to the client, as a finished project, you want everything to look immaculate, right? You don't want any paint splotches, you don't want any flooring cracks or whatever, right? It's got to look pristine, and that's the quality you want to give on a project. But there's the other side of it, that you want that same level of quality and detail and care given to the experience the client has with the project, being informed, setting expectations, communication levels, all these different things. So I think bringing that same amount of attention and care that you do to, producing a high quality project needs to go into the client experience, because at the end of the day, a really stellar client experience can kind of make up for a few hiccups in the project or the quality thing that was a little bit off, and you got to go back and fix it. If you have that rapport, you've been upfront, you've had good communication, they've always felt like they're in the loop, and you're on the same team working together on this project that to produce what they want. They're going to refer you. Your marketing budget's going to go farther. You're going to spend whatever you're going to spend on ads or agencies or whatever it may be. Why not utilize some of these processes or technologies to really capitalize on those investments that you're going to be making anyways to bring in new clients.
So, yeah, I think that's a really important point to bring up. And again, speaking from experience, I think a lot of business owners look at marketing as an expense. But, basically, your marketing is bringing attention to your business. We offer solutions to help engage that attention right away. Again, if you have a good sales process on the back end and service process, you'll be able to leverage that to close more deals. And, I think there's a really powerful reframe that people need to look at this, and marketing isn't an expense, it's an investment into your business. And same with like developing SOPs and tapping into the experience of people that might be able to bring elements to your business that you might not be proficient in. These are investments in your business. And like let's say you spend $1,000 and your ticket is only $2,000, and or 2,000 profit off the project, a small project. Like you're doubling your money on your marketing. Where else can you invest money and double your money? Now, if
Mhm.
you're running things properly, you're probably making much more of a return than that. It might be a 50x or a 100x. So, I'd
Mhm.
really like to encourage people to kind of, look at marketing in a different frame and understand that like that's the front driver of your business and it's an investment, and really look at that from an ROI perspective, not just
Mhm.
an expense that's kind of coming out of your account. So
Yeah, definitely. I find as like a percentage of revenue, like a margin to spend on marketing, typically you want to be anywhere from 1 to 3% if you want to be aggressive and you're growing, maybe even more than that. But you should be allocating, a part of your revenue that you're generating to a marketing budget and factoring that into your estimating or whatever is overhead or however you want to, make up for it as far as but yeah, that's definitely an investment and it'll give you multiple, done correctly, it'll give you many multiples of return, for sure. So I mean, with AI, it's huge nowadays. And I know from what I understand, your solution is not just like a chatbot off the shelf. That's one for everybody. Can you explain a little bit about like the client journey, if you will, of like a builder who goes forward, and kind of implementing your solution and what that looks like on the builder side?
yeah, for sure. Thanks for asking that. So
Mhm.
again, being from the industry and being a tradesperson and a contracting company owner myself, I understand how busy you are already, right? So the last thing you need is another tool that takes you 2 weeks to learn, another tool that takes you 16 hours to set up yourself. So
Mhm.
basically what we offer is a totally done for you service. My team sets everything up. We customize it specifically to your business. So, not only is it tailored to contracting and home building, it's also developed by somebody who understands your industry, understands the client buying journey, and totally done for you from the setup perspective. Again, we integrate with your existing tech stack, regardless of how complex that is. Like I know a lot of companies don't use a CRM, right? That's fine. What we can do in that case is we can kick notifications to you in your email. So, at the end of the day, you're replying to leads between 4 and 5, 5 and 6 o'clock. You go check your email, all your leads are in there ready for you to reply to, right? So, we're really making this easy for people to adopt. You don't need to understand AI. All you need to understand is your own business, and we take care of the rest. It
Mhm.
might sound too easy, too good to be true, but
Mhm.
that is how easy we've made it. Basically,
Mhm.
a couple conversations, a couple emails back and forth, and we take care of the rest.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, you don't need to learn a whole bunch of new tech or, know everything to utilize these systems and make them work for you. Definitely. So with AI like changing so fast and it's really, every software now is like with AI, right? So what do you see sort of the future 1, 2 years out with the AIs that you're utilizing and providing for builders or just AI in general? Like where do you see things going and what should contractors be aware of?
Sure. So, I think the best way to get kind of perspective on the future is to look at the past, right? And we kind of see the same adoption cycle with every new technology, right? So, what I'm about to describe, it happened with the internet, it happened with personal computers, it happened with cell phones, and now we're seeing the same thing with AI. There's early adopters, there's people in the middle that might dabble, and then there's people that are just like, hey, we don't need this, who cares about this? Or maybe even to the very extreme, they're afraid of it or they don't like it. I've spoken to people in that camp as well. So the same thing that we saw with the internet, oh, who wants a website? Oh, who wants a personal computer? Who would want a cell phone? That's only for rich people, right? It's a part of everyday life. Like imagine running your contracting company without the internet, without a computer, without a cell phone, right? You would be left in the dust. You would not be able to do business. Your competition would be walking all over you. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but we are starting to see this emerging. And I've been augmenting my workflows and using AI to increase my productivity for years years already, even before launching BuilderChat, and a lot of other companies are as well. So, just like the analogy that I brought up, like imagine competing with a company where one person in their marketing department can do as much as three people in yours. Imagine competing against a contracting company where they have AI optimizing their routes. Maybe it's a plumbing contractor company where their guys have to go to 10, 15 jobs a day, and they're using AI to optimize for heavy traffic and everything like this, and they're getting 20% more jobs done than you, and in turn providing more reliable and better service. Being able to respond to new clients' inquiries 24/7 and also serve existing clients 24/7 as well, right? This is what you're going to be competing against. So, it's not going to change overnight, but we are seeing fairly decent adoption rate. It's a little bit different than what we saw with cell phones and computers because people are already fairly digital native. They already have the delivery mechanisms in their hands every day. So it is going to have a huge impact on every industry. What's really cool in the small and medium space is like we're not taking jobs, we're just making these businesses better, right? Like we're taking a company that can't afford to pay a full-time reception and we're giving them 24/7 365 reception with no days off for pennies, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's really exciting. There's a huge opportunity for small and medium businesses, but that's how I predict things to evolve. And there will be a significant competitive advantage for any company that taps into the power of AI. I'd love
Mhm.
to flip that question onto you, Derek. Do you
Mhm.
use AI in your business currently, and how has it impacted you?
Yeah, I use AI extensively, definitely, every day for a lot of the things we do. Initially, a lot for marketing. I'm an okay writer, but I don't enjoy writing. So that's been like that was like the initial first thing where it's like finally, I don't need to hire a copywriter or spend hours trying to, write out different, marketing materials or things for my business. So that's been fantastic. And now it's improved to the point where it's really fulfilling and enabling a lot of roles just to be better. It helps you be more efficient. The sky's the limit. We could probably go on for days about utilizing AI, but I mean, you can create custom GPTs and stuff like that for one-off kind of things, and definitely where I have like a repetitive sort of task that I need to do, where I can just put in some information. It'll kind of list and organize everything, and then I can just run with that. Back and forth strategy stuff is there. Agents are coming around now, and those are going to get more prevalent. I think the AI agents is going to be a big game changer, and it's still pretty new. I've used it a little bit just to test it out. It's pretty incredible. I haven't come up with something specific that I need it for on a regular basis. It's just getting better and better every day, and there will be a point where you can more or less just talk to it. It'll be your personal assistant and kind of do whatever you need it to do. So pretty exciting stuff. And it can get overwhelming, and definitely if you're not like tech, savvy, if you will, or you just like you got a million and one things to do, learning, how to use AI is probably not high on your list. But that's all the more reason to talk to someone like James here and connect with BuilderChat. You don't need to know all this stuff or utilize even all of it. You can get your team to look at it, talk to an expert, hire a company to help you with this. At the end of the day, it's going to make you more effective, make your people more effective, and it's really only going to get more and more relevant over time. So much better to get a jump start on this. Right now it's a pivotal moment essentially, and I feel like it's finally got to the point now where it's good enough that the accuracy and the ability of it is really up to the high enough level that you can use it for almost any kind of task, that is geared for digitally that you want it for. So definitely excited for the future. I know there's obviously some fear and risks and all this stuff about it, but I feel like it's just going to enable a lot more people to do a lot more special stuff, especially as entrepreneurs, business owners. Like this just frees up. You could start your business for freedom, essentially. Like obviously you want to make a whole lot of money, but typically that's so that you can, enjoy more free time or more time geared towards the things that you specifically enjoy instead of, fielding calls or doing different, whatever it may be. So definitely, yeah, huge advantage to to talking with someone and getting this instilled in your business. So James, for people who want to learn more about Builder Chat or connect with you and your team, we'll put a link in the description here. So check out the description, go click through the link to visit the website. Beyond that, what's the best way for someone to get connected and learn more?
If you're on LinkedIn, feel free to find me on LinkedIn, James Matt, pretty easy to find. We have our Canadian website, builderchat.ca, and our US website, builderchat.us. We are on Instagram and Facebook as well. Or you can shoot me an email direct, james@builderchat.ca, and happy to answer any questions and maybe flip a little bit of a CTA back to you, Derek. If there's anybody watching this and you might be interested in like how you could build some cool custom stuff yourself, maybe Derek would be willing to get together with me again. I know just messing around, one of the experiments I did is I built a custom agent. What I did was I dropped our provincial building code in it and then gave it some instructions on how to properly reference the building code. So you can do some really cool stuff and it's a lot of fun. So, I really appreciate you having me, Derek. And again, you're
Yeah.
right. Like I could probably talk about this for 12 hours straight. So thanks for the opportunity. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. So if you're listening and you would like to do like a workshop or get more information of, technically how to put this stuff together, drop a comment and just say yes, or, I'd like to learn more about AI and we can put together some sort of a training event or something like that and connect with the audience further there. Would, be excited to do that. And yeah, the more you learn, the easier it gets and then the better and more efficient you can run your business. It is a really wonderful thing when you just have that process and it runs. I'm all about those systems and processes, and it really does simplify your life so much and just improve your business. So any last final words of wisdom or insight that you'd like to share with the audience, James?
Yeah, I just want to echo what you mentioned a few sentences ago. And, like it's such an amazing opportunity for everybody right now. And, like my team has put hundreds of thousands of dollars and thousands of hours into development. And you can tap into that for like $100 and something a month, right? So it's really amazing where we're at. And, similar to how you can tap into Derek's experience on standard operating procedures and optimize many aspects of your business, we're kind of offering that same ability with the technology approach, except you don't have to do anything,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really amazing bang for your buck, and we're fun to work with and have amazing customer service as well. So if you want to play around, we are offering free trials and running a pilot project for small and medium-sized contractors also. So feel free to get in touch if you want to have a quick 15-minute chat about that, and we'll see if you're a good fit.
Perfect. Huge value there. Definitely reach out to James and the team at Builder Chat. Thanks so much for coming on here, James. It's been an honor to get your insights on this big subject.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Derek. Always a pleasure. Look forward to connecting and doing something like this again.